The dress didn't fit. Emma Garrett stood in the cramped back room of the general store, staring at the yellowed lace hanging loose around her shoulders, and knew this was how her life would be from now on, ill-fitting, borrowed, wrong. Outside, the town of Prescott Bend was waiting. She could hear them through the thin walls, their voices carried on the hot Arizona wind that never seemed to stop blowing. Women clucking their tongues, men clearing their throats and shuffling boots against the wooden planks. All of them gathered to watch 19-year-old Emma Garrett marry a man she'd met exactly twice. Her hands trembled as she tried to pin the fabric tighter across her waist. The dress had belonged to someone else, probably three someone else's, judging by the frayed hem and the way it smelled of camphor and old hope. Mrs. Brennan from the boarding house had pressed it into her arms 2 days ago with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll make do," the older woman had said. "Not you'll be beautiful or you'll be happy, just you'll make do." Emma had been making do her whole life, making do after her mother died birthing a baby that didn't survive the night, making do when her father drank himself into an early grave, making do through 3 years of working herself raw at the boarding house, scrubbing floors and hauling water until her hands bled, just to keep a roof over her head and food in her belly. And now this, the final making do. The door creaked open, Mrs. Brennan's weathered face appeared in the gap, her expression stern. "Time." Emma's stomach lurched. "I need another minute." "You've had 19 years of minutes, girl. The preacher's waiting, and Mr. Dalton's paid good money." Mrs. Brennan's tone softened slightly, but not by much. "It's a fair arrangement, more than fair, considering." Considering what? That Emma had no family, no prospects, no future, except growing old and bitter in that boarding house, watching younger girls come and go while she scrubbed their chamber pots. When Nathan Dalton had approached Mrs. Brennan with his proposal 3 weeks ago, it had been presented to Emma as a rescue, not a sentence. A widower rancher with a young daughter who needed a mother, a man of property and standing who could offer security, a practical arrangement that would benefit both parties. Emma had said yes because saying no meant nothing at all. She followed Mrs. Brennan through the store, past barrels of flour and coils of rope, past the glass jars of peppermint sticks she'd stared at as a child, knowing her father would never spare the penny. The morning sunlight hit her face like a slap when she stepped onto the porch. They'd gathered in front of the church across the street, maybe 30 people, all watching her with various expressions of curiosity, pity, or judgment. Emma recognized most of them: the baker's wife who'd never spoken a kind word to her, the blacksmith who'd once grabbed her wrist too hard when she delivered his washing, the saloon girls who at least had the decency to look sympathetic. And there, standing beside the preacher, was Nathan Dalton. He was taller than she remembered from their brief, awkward meetings, somewhere in his early 30s, with dark hair going gray at the temples and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. He wore a clean shirt and a vest that had seen better days, his boots dusty from the ride into town. When their eyes met, he nodded once, a quick jerk of his chin that might have been greeting or resignation. Emma's feet carried her forward because they had nowhere else to go. The ceremony was mercifully short. The preacher rushed through the words like he had somewhere better to be, which he probably did. Nathan's voice was steady when he said, "I do," a low rumble that seemed to come from somewhere deep in his chest. Emma's voice cracked on her own vows, but she got them out. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Nathan didn't kiss her. He extended his hand instead, formal and cold, and Emma shook it like they'd just concluded a business transaction. Which she supposed they had. The small crowd dispersed quickly, murmuring among themselves. A few women approached to offer stiff congratulations that felt more like condolences. Emma stood there in her too big dress, married to a stranger, while the sun climbed higher and the wind picked up dust from the street. Nathan cleared his throat. "Wagons this way." She followed him to a tired-looking buckboard hitched to 2 brown horses. He helped her up without ceremony, his hands rough and impersonal on her waist. Then he climbed up beside her, took the reins, and they started moving. Prescott Bend fell away behind them. Emma didn't look back. The ranch was 12 miles northwest, Nathan told her. Then he said nothing else for the next hour. Emma watched the landscape roll past, scrub brush and red rock, distant mesas shimmering in the heat. She'd lived in Arizona territory her whole life, but had rarely traveled beyond the town limits. The vastness of it felt like drowning in air. "There's a girl," Nathan said suddenly, breaking the silence so abruptly that Emma flinched. "Lily, she's 6, lost her mother 2 years back." Mrs. Brennan mentioned. "She's particular, doesn't take to strangers easily." He kept his eyes on the road. "Figured I should warn you. I've worked with difficult people before." "She's not difficult, she's hurting." The words came out sharp, defensive, then he seemed to catch himself. "What I mean is, give her time, she'll come around." Or she won't, Emma thought. And then what? She imagined a silent house, a hostile child, a husband who spoke in single sentences and looked at her like a piece of furniture he'd acquired. The ranch appeared gradually, first a windmill spinning lazy circles against the sky, then a barn with weathered red paint, then the house itself. It was smaller than Emma had imagined, single-story with a porch that sagged slightly on one end. But it was solid, real, more than she'd ever owned in her life. Nathan pulled the wagon to a stop. "I'll show you around." Inside, the house was dim and sparse. A main room with a stone fireplace, a kitchen area with a cast-iron stove, 2 bedrooms separated by thin walls. Everything was clean but bare, like someone had scrubbed away any trace of warmth or personality. "That's Lily's room," Nathan said, pointing to one of the closed doors. "This one's yours." "Mine," Emma turned to look at him. He kept his gaze somewhere over her left shoulder. "Figured you'd want your own space, for now, until," he trailed off, the unfinished sentence hanging heavy between them. Emma's face grew hot. She hadn't let herself think too hard about the physical expectations of marriage. "Thank you," she managed. "Lily's with my sister today. I'll ride over and fetch her after supper." He was already backing toward the door. "Make yourself at home. There's supplies in the kitchen if you want to cook something. I've got work in the barn." Then he was gone, boots thudding across the porch, leaving Emma alone in her new life. She spent the afternoon exploring her cage. The house was spare but not dirty. Nathan clearly kept up with basic cleaning, though his efforts lacked any feminine touch. The kitchen had the essentials: flour, beans, coffee, salt pork. Emma found a few potatoes in a bin and started peeling them for supper, grateful for something familiar to do with her hands. Through the window above the wash basin, she could see Nathan working near the barn, carrying tools and lumber. He moved with the efficient economy of a man used to hard labor. Strong, she thought distantly, not unkind, just absent, like he was going through the motions of a life he no longer fully inhabited. She wondered about the first wife. What had she been like? Had she loved Nathan, or had theirs been an arrangement too? Had she stood in this same kitchen, peeling these same potatoes, wondering if this was all there would ever be? Emma shook off the thoughts and focused on cooking. By the time the sun started its descent, she'd managed a passable supper: fried potatoes, beans, and biscuits that were only slightly burned on the bottom. Nathan came in as she was setting the table. He washed his hands at the basin without speaking, then sat down heavily in one of the wooden chairs. They ate in silence, the scrape of forks against plates the only sound. "It's good," he said finally. "Thank you." "You're welcome." More silence. Emma forced herself to eat, though every bite felt like swallowing stones. She tried to think of something to say, some way to bridge the chasm between them, but everything that came to mind felt stupid or desperate. Nathan pushed back from the table. "I'll get Lily now. My sister's place is about an hour ride." He hesitated at the door. "She might not be friendly at first. Don't take it personal." Emma nodded, her throat too tight for words. After he left, she cleaned up the supper dishes, her hands moving automatically through the familiar motions. The sky outside turned gold, then pink, then purple. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. Emma lit a lantern as the darkness pressed in against the windows. She heard the horses before she saw them. Hoofbeats, then voices, Nathan's low murmur, and a higher, younger response. Emma wiped her palms on her skirt and tried to arrange her face into something welcoming. The door opened. Nathan entered first, then stepped aside to reveal a small girl with tangled dark hair and her mother's dress, or what Emma guessed had been her mother's dress, cut down and hemmed inexpertly. Lily Dalton stared at Emma with eyes that held too much knowledge for 6 years old. "Lily, this is Emma, your new mother." The girl's expression didn't change. "She's not my mother." "Lily." "My mother's dead." The words were matter of fact, stripped of emotion. "She can't be my mother." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Emma's my wife now. You'll treat her with respect." "Yes, sir," but Lily's eyes said something different. She looked Emma up and down with an assessment that was almost adult in its coldness, then walked past her into the small bedroom and shut the door. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight. "I'm sorry," Nathan said quietly. "Don't be, she's right, I'm not her mother." Emma tried to keep her voice steady. "Maybe I can be something else, in time." Nathan looked at her then, really looked at her, and for a moment Emma thought she saw something shift in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or the beginning of respect, but it was gone before she could be sure. "I'll say good night," he said. "Morning comes early." Emma retreated to her own room and closed the door. She sat on the edge of the narrow bed in the darkness, still wearing the borrowed wedding dress, and wondered how she would survive this. The days fell into a pattern. Nathan rose before dawn and worked until well after dark, breaking only for meals. Lily ignored Emma with a determination that bordered on artistic, and Emma cleaned and cooked and tried to make herself indispensable to two people who seemed perfectly content to pretend she didn't exist. 3 weeks passed this way, 3 weeks of one-word conversations and empty silences. 3 weeks of sleeping alone in a room that never felt like hers, in a house that never felt like home. Emma had learned not to try forcing interaction. She left food where Nathan could find it. She washed Lily's clothes and left them folded on her bed. She tended the small vegetable garden behind the house and mended torn shirts and lived like a ghost haunting her own life. But something was changing in her, a hardness settling in her chest, calcifying around her heart. She'd been soft once, Emma remembered, young and soft and full of foolish hopes. The frontier had beaten most of that out of her, but she'd kept some small flame alive, some belief that things could get better. That flame was dying now. She was scrubbing the kitchen floor on a blistering afternoon when she heard Lily scream. Emma dropped the brush and ran, bursting through the door into a scene that stopped her heart. Lily was on the ground near the barn, her leg bent at a wrong angle, face white with shock. 10 feet away, a horse Emma didn't recognize stamped and snorted, eyes rolling. "Don't move," Emma shouted at the girl. She grabbed a bucket from the porch and threw it hard at the horse, hitting its flank. The animal spooked and bolted toward the open range. Emma dropped to her knees beside Lily. The girl's breath came in short gasps, and when Emma looked at the leg, her stomach turned. Broken, definitely, maybe just a fracture, maybe worse. "Where's your father?" "North pasture," Lily whispered, "fixing fence." Too far. By the time Emma found him and brought him back, precious time would be lost. She made a decision. "I'm going to carry you inside. It's going to hurt." Lily's eyes went wide with fear. "Don't." "I know, I'm sorry." Emma slid her arms under the girl as gently as she could, but there was no way to avoid the jostling. Lily screamed again, a sound that cut through Emma like glass. She forced herself to keep moving, to get the girl inside and onto her bed. For the next hour, Emma worked with a focus she didn't know she possessed. She'd seen broken bones before. Frontier life was full of accidents. She found straight wood for a splint, tore strips of cloth for binding, gave Lily whiskey-soaked sugar cubes to bite down on. The girl cried but didn't fight her, perhaps too shocked or too hurt to resist. Emma was binding the final wrap when Nathan burst through the door. "Lily," his voice cracked with panic. He crossed the room in 2 strides and dropped beside the bed. His hands hovering over his daughter like he was afraid to touch her. Her leg's broken, Emma said steadily. I've splintered it, but she needs a doctor. Someone should ride to town. Nathan looked at Emma as if seeing her for the first time. His face was pale beneath the tan, his eyes wide. You did this by yourself. There wasn't time to find you. He turned back to Lily, brushing hair from her forehead with a gentleness Emma hadn't known he possessed. You're okay, sweetheart, you're okay now. It hurts, Papa. I know it does. He looked up at Emma again. I'll ride for the doctor, can you? I'll stay with her. Nathan stood, seemed about to say something, then just nodded and strode out. Emma heard the horse gallop away moments later. She sat beside Lily's bed, dampening a cloth with cool water and pressing it to the girl's flushed face. Lily's eyes were closed, her breathing gradually slowing as shock gave way to exhaustion. You saved me, the girl whispered suddenly. Emma paused mid-motion. I did what anyone would do. No, Lily opened her eyes. They were red-rimmed but clear. The horse could have trampled you. You ran at it anyway. You're a child. Of course I ran. Lily was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was so soft Emma almost missed it. I've been mean to you. You've been hurting. Papa said the same thing. A tear slipped down Lily's cheek. I thought if I was mean enough, he'd send you away, then it could just be us again like before. Emma's throat tightened. She set down the cloth and took Lily's small hand in hers. Your mother loved you very much. I can't replace that. I won't try. But maybe I could be someone who also cares, if you'd let me. Lily's fingers tightened around Emma's. It still hurts. I know, sweetheart. The doctor will help. They sat together in the dimming light, hand in hand, until Nathan returned with Dr. Morrison an hour later. The doctor examined Lily, pronounced Emma's splinting work admirably competent, and gave laudanum for the pain. By the time he left, Lily was sleeping deeply, her small face finally peaceful. Nathan walked the doctor out, then returned to stand in the doorway of Lily's room. Emma was still sitting beside the bed, her hand resting near the girl's. Thank you, Nathan said. The words sounded rusty, like he'd forgotten how to speak them. Emma looked up at him. In the lamplight, his face was different, softer, more open, vulnerable in a way she hadn't seen before. She's a brave girl, Emma said. Like someone else I know. Nathan took a step into the room. What you did today, you could have been hurt. That horse was half wild. I should have warned you it was on the property. Why was it here? Buying him from a neighbor, thought I could gentle him for riding. He rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture of frustration. Didn't count on him breaking loose. These things happen. Emma, he said her name like he was testing it, tasting it for the first time. I owe you more than thanks. I owe you, hell, I don't know what I owe you. An apology maybe, for bringing you into this mess, for treating you like hired help instead of, he trailed off. Instead of your wife. Yeah, he moved closer, close enough that Emma could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. I was married before, to Sarah. We grew up together, married young because we wanted to. It was good, real good. When she died, I thought that was it. That part of my life was over. Emma waited, barely breathing. Then I saw you at the boarding house, Nathan continued. Saw how hard you worked, how you never complained. Mrs. Brennan said you needed a situation, and I told myself it was just practical. Someone to help with Lily, keep the house. But that was a lie I told to make it easier. What do you mean? I mean I was scared. The admission seemed to cost him something, scared of feeling anything again, so I kept you at a distance, treated you cold, figured if I didn't let myself care, it wouldn't hurt when whatever happens, happens. Emma stood slowly, and now I'm realizing what a damn fool I've been. Nathan's voice dropped lower. You could have walked away today, let me handle it when I got back. Instead you ran toward danger, for a girl who's done nothing but make you miserable, for my daughter. She's just a child who lost her mother. And you're just a woman who deserved better than what I gave you. He reached out, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind Emma's ear. The touch was so unexpected, so tender, that Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I can't promise I'll be easy to live with. I'm stubborn and I work too much and I don't always say what I'm thinking, but I can promise I'll try to be a real husband if you'll have me. Emma looked at this man who was still mostly a stranger, this man who'd bought her like cattle and then ignored her for weeks. But she also saw something else now, the grief he carried, the fear beneath the cold exterior, the possibility of something real struggling to break through. I don't need promises, she said quietly. I just need a chance for both of us. Nathan smiled then, a small hesitant thing that transformed his whole face. Then we'll start over. Tomorrow, I'll court you proper this time. We're already married. Don't care, you deserve courting. Despite everything, the fear, the uncertainty, the broken child sleeping between them, Emma felt something warm unfurl in her chest. Not quite hope yet, but maybe the seed of it. The weeks that followed were different. Nathan began eating breakfast with Emma before heading out, lingering over coffee to talk about nothing in particular. He fixed the sagging porch and bought fabric from town so Emma could make a proper dress, one that fit. He brought her wildflowers from the range, looking embarrassed and young when he handed them over. And Lily, trapped in bed while her leg healed, became Emma's unexpected ally. The girl was starved for attention and stories, and Emma had a lifetime of both stored up. They spent long afternoons together, Emma reading from the few books in the house or telling tales of her own girlhood. Slowly, tentatively, something like affection grew between them. 2 months after the wedding, Nathan appeared in the kitchen one evening carrying a wooden box. Emma was washing dishes, her sleeves rolled up and hair escaping its pins. "Got something for you," he said. Emma dried her hands and turned. "What is it?" He set the box on the table and opened it. Inside, nestled in straw, was a set of china dishes, nothing fancy, but whole and clean and clearly new. "Saw them in town, thought maybe you'd like to have something that's yours, not borrowed, not second-hand." Emma stared at the dishes, then at Nathan. "You bought these for me." "It's not much. It's everything." The words came out choked. She reached for him without thinking, and he met her halfway, pulling her into an embrace that felt like coming home. "I love you," Nathan said into her hair. "Didn't mean to, tried not to, but I do." Emma tilted her head back to look at him. "I don't know if I love you yet, but I think I could. I want to." "That's enough." He kissed her then, soft and careful, a question and an answer both. When they pulled apart, Lily was standing in the doorway of her room, leaning on the crutches Nathan had fashioned. She was grinning, looking more like a normal 6-year-old than Emma had ever seen. "Does this mean Emma's staying forever?" Nathan looked at Emma. Emma looked back. "Yeah," she said, "I'm staying." On a cool evening in late autumn, Emma stood on the porch and watched the sun sink behind the distant mountains. The house behind her glowed with lamplight, warm and lived in. Inside, Nathan was helping Lily with her reading lessons, his patient voice drifting through the open window. The ranch was theirs now, not just Nathan's, not just a place Emma had been deposited, but theirs. Every fence post they'd mended together, every meal they'd shared, every quiet moment and loud argument and small victory that had slowly, painfully built something real between them. Emma touched the china cup in her hands, feeling its solid weight. She'd made coffee in the new dishes every day since Nathan gave them to her, a small ritual that reminded her she wasn't borrowed anymore. She belonged. Behind her, the door creaked open. Nathan stepped out and moved beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. He didn't say anything, just stood there in the gathering darkness, and Emma didn't need him to speak. They'd moved beyond the need for words. "Thank you," she said finally. "For what?" "For the chance." She turned to face him. "For the gift." Nathan cupped her face in his work-roughened hands. "You're the gift, Emma Dalton, best one I ever got." When he kissed her this time, it wasn't careful or tentative. It was certain. It was promise and future and all the messy, complicated love that frontier life demanded. Emma kissed him back and felt the last of her old life, the borrowed dresses and empty years and making do, fall away like dust in the Arizona wind. She was 19 years old. She'd been married against her will to a stranger, and somehow, impossibly, she'd found home.